Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And if this is your first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking time out of today to check out my episode. I promise you won't be disappointed. But I also want to let you guys know this is a basketball podcast. This is not just an NBA podcast. So on my podcast, I love to cover the NBA predominantly, but also I like to cover college, high school, and international basketball. This episode today is going to be there's kind of quite a bit of international basketball I'm going to talk about in this episode. So you don't want to miss that in my segment that I like to call In the Lab. So don't miss that. That's later on in the episode. But I want to give you guys the 4 segments that I go over week in and week out. The first being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's me just giving you guys my power rankings week in and week out. And understand that the list is a progressive list because I'm not a perfect man. I am a progressive man. So keep that in mind. And I'll give you guys the parameters for that segment very shortly here. Secondly, another segment I like to go over is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA information that may have happened over the last week, some type of NBA history that may have happened over the last week, or it could just be me wanting to rant about something. Thirdly, another segment I like to go over is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, essentially, I'm giving you guys games that I'm looking forward to that week, or I'm giving you guys games that I enjoyed over the last week, or I'm giving you guys some type of games of some type of significance, okay? Lastly, the last segment, I just said it. My last segment is In the Lab. Now, in The Lab, essentially, I'm covering NBA rookies. I'm talking international, I'm talking college, and then I'm talking high school basketball. Now, before I get started, I just want to let you guys know I just finished the first episode of Court of Gold on Netflix, which, if you guys haven't heard about it, the Olympics, they end up doing an Olympic documentary. I just finished the first episode. And so I'm just really high on that energy right now from that first episode. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna try to watch another probably 2 to 3 episodes later today. But really good so far. I said it literally during one of my summer episodes last year, right after the Olympics. I do believe in 2028, I think France is gonna get their get back for what we did to them this last summer in Paris. Because obviously in 2028, it's in LA. But anyways, I'll save that for another day. I did talk about that over last summer, how I felt that the France team by 2028 is going to be a lot better. But with that being said, I don't want to talk more about that. I want to get into today's episode with you guys. So we're going to dive straight into the very first segment. Now, the very first segment on the chopping block is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's my power rankings like I just stated to you guys. I want to give you guys the parameters within that. So the parameters I like to use for my power rankings week in to week out is strength of schedule, eye test, your team's record, and then also where your team sits statistically. This week's going to be a little bit different just because, in my opinion, this last week, there was too much fluctuation, in my opinion, on like the competitiveness for certain games. I truly think a lot of players were just checked out and ready to get to the All-Star break. So I did not change any of my teams in my top 10. So just stay with me, okay? So this top 10 from last week is going to be the exact same, but what I am going to do is I want to kind of lay down our foundation and our parameters and get us set for this home stretch of the second half of the season. So today, for all the 10 teams, I'm going to give you guys basically the team's strength of schedule and then maybe 1 to 2 pieces of things that I'll be keeping my eyes out on going into the second half of the season for these teams, okay? Mind you guys, I'm recording this February 18th, 2025 at about 11 a.m. It's a Tuesday. So keep that in mind as we go through the list. Basketball games pick up tomorrow. I believe the Lakers play the Hornets tomorrow. And then I think Thursday is when we get I think we get like 8 to 9 games on Thursday. So next week, we'll be back on track with, moving people up and down in the power rankings because some of the teams, yeah. Anyways, let's dive straight into it. I don't want to waste any more time with you guys. My number 1 team, just like last week, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, their record, they're sitting at 44-10. They're 6th in offensive efficiency. They're 1st in defensive efficiency, and they're 1st in net rating. They have the 13th toughest schedule remaining. 3-point shooting so far this season. In totality, they're 17th in the NBA in 3-point shooting at 36%. But since January 1st, they've actually shot the 4th best percentage at 38%. So for me, something that I'm going to keep my eyes out on is, can Oklahoma sustain that success from the 3-point line the second half of the season and stay in that top 5, top 4 range? Second, Number two team, sorry, on my list. This team is 39-16, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're fourth in offensive efficiency, they're fifth in defensive efficiency, and they're third in net rating. They actually have the third easiest remaining schedule left, so I expect Boston just to go on a tear the second half. That's what I really expect. I do expect them to turn up defensively because right now they're 28th in steals at 7 per game. That's what I'll be keeping my eyes out on the second half of the year is defensively them ramming it up and just killing teams. Number 3, this team is 44-10, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland right now, they're first in offensive efficiency. They're 8th in defensive efficiency, and they're second in net rating. They have the 14th toughest schedule remaining. And for me, the biggest thing I'll be paying attention to for them is them putting more pressure and basically blocking more shots at the rim. Well, just in general, actually, not even just at the rim. But right now, they're 26 in the NBA in blocks per game at 4.5. I'm interested to see if that can come up the second half of the season. Number 4, this team is 36-18, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 8th. They're second in offensive efficiency. They're 18th in defensive efficiency, and they're 5th in net rating. They have the 8th toughest remaining schedule left. Overall defense for me, can they get this defense to a top 15? Can they crack the top 15 defensively? Right now, they're 18th in defensive efficiency, defensive rating. So I'm just curious to see if this team can rev it up defense and do they have that next gear to get to, because currently where they're at defensively is just not going to get it done against some of these better offensive teams in the playoffs, in my opinion. Number 5, this team is 36-18, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis right now, they're 5th in offensive efficiency, they're 7th in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. They have the 4th toughest remaining schedule left. For me, what I'll be paying attention to for them is them basically getting ready for the playoffs. Can they limit their turnovers? Right now, they're 3rd in the NBA in turnovers at 16 per game. So I wanted to see if they can, and they obviously play the fastest pace in the NBA, and they're first in transition points. I want to see this team kind of try to slow down a little bit in the second half of the year and kind of prep themselves for the playoffs and really just clean up the turnovers is the biggest thing for me. Number 6, this team is 34-19, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 3rd in offensive efficiency. They're 16th in defensive efficiency, and they're 6th in net rating. They have the 3rd toughest remaining schedule left. And the biggest thing for me is, can they turn off the faucet of some of these other teams? Because right now, they're allowing the most assists per game for these teams at 29. So I want to see if they can stop the flow of some of these teams' offenses the second half of the year. Number 7, this team is 32-20, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 9th in offensive efficiency. They're 17th in defensive efficiency. They're 13th in net rating. They have the 6th toughest schedule remaining. And obviously, the biggest things for me for this team, I don't have one statistic that I really want to point out to you guys from this team, but for me, it's figuring out who is this team going to be offensively and defensively moving forward. Obviously, they acquired Luka, and Luka only got to play about 2 games. So the makeup of this team is going to look totally different the second half of the year. So I'm interested just to see who are they. Number 8, this team is 34-21, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 12th in offensive efficiency, they're 4th in defensive efficiency, and they're 7th in net rating. They have the 10th easiest schedule remaining. And my biggest thing for this team that I'll be personally paying attention to is them responding to the second half of the year, kind of being more of the hunted, obviously I had high hopes for the Rockets in the preseason, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of other people did too. But now the second half of the year is ready to kick off. So, the veterans of the NBA, they know what to expect. They're going to kind of kick it to another gear. What does the second gear, or can this young group, can they find the energy to sustain going into the second half of the year? That's what and plus, like I said, there'll be more of the hunted than the hunters the second half of the year. So I'll be paying attention. I expect they'll be able to live up to it. I'm not doubting them at all, but I just want to let you guys know I'm interested to see how do they respond, more so being the hunted instead of the hunters, Number 9, this team is 31-25, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota right now, they're 14th in offensive efficiency, they're 6th in defensive efficiency, and they're 8th in net rating. They have the 5th easiest schedule remaining. And my big thing is, can this offense stay warm? Since January Since January 1st, they're averaging the 15th most points per game at 115 per game, which obviously is not that good, but it's better than where they have been for the majority of the year, where overall for the season, they're 20th in offense. So I'm interested just to see the second half of the year if this offense can catch where the defense is at. Can this team crack the top 10 offensively? Right now they sit 14th. So I'm interested to see if they can crack the top 10. Number 10, this team is 30-23, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana right now, they're 10th in offensive efficiency, they're 21st in defensive efficiency, and they're 16th in net rating. They have the 12th easiest schedule remaining. And for me is can they stay balanced? Since January 1st, this team is 8th in offensive efficiency and they're 9th in defensive efficiency. So I'm just interested to see if they can keep that balance moving forward. Now, again, like I said, next week we'll get back to our normal stuff. But down in the comment section below, you guys let me know what things are you guys going to be looking forward to in the second half of the year for some of these teams. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of information about the NBA that's happened over the last week, some type of history that may have happened over the last week, or it's just me ranting. Well, today we're going to start it off with me ranting a little bit, and then I'm going to give you guys some news. So, like I told you guys last week, I wanted to take just like a minute or so and talk about the Pelicans, just very briefly. I had a really good conversation with somebody down in the comment section of one of my other videos about the Pelicans, and I agreed with just about everything he said, but I just want to bring it to the camera to you guys now. So for me, obviously the Pelicans this year have been very disappointing. Obviously, we all know their big bright spot this year is the leap that Trey Murphy has taken, being more of a primary ball handler, being a more off the dribble scorer. Just overall, Trey Murphy has improved offensively. You know, he seems more of a potential number 3 option on a team, or maybe even a number 2, just depending who's number 1 and who's number 3, you know. But I kind of just want to focus. I want to kind of take us into 2 years from now. Yes, 2 years from now, because that's how I view basketball. And just full disclosure, like I'm an investor too, so I love like stocks. I'm a very big stock guy. I'm a big commodities guy. I like crypto as well. So I naturally think forward, but I do the same thing with sports as well. Anyways, with that being said, I want to take us to 2026-2027 season. So not next year, the year after. I think that could be a very big year for the Pelicans, only because, hear me out, Zion will be in the middle of his prime. You got Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. They'll also be still in there. Trey Murphy will still be in the middle of his prime. So will Herb Jones. And then also CJ McCollum, depending on what they do with CJ, either A, he'll be off the books completely, or they're probably going to flip him for something either over this summer or next year. They'll probably flip him because I think he only got 2 years left on his deal. So I expect them to do something with him to create some value out of that. Not to mention, they're probably going to get a top 5 pick in this draft. So that player will be in year 2 by that point. Not to mention, you still got Jordan Hawkins, who's a sniper. He'll be at the beginning of his prime. And also you got Yves Missy. He'll be at the beginning of his prime as well. So I think 2026, 2027 is going to be a big year for the Pelicans. I don't know what that amounts to, because obviously we got to see what the other teams in the NBA are doing at that point. And then also DeJounte Murray. I didn't even talk about DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray at that point also will be a year recovered and removed from his injury, you know? So next year, I think if they do, like, let's say they do make the play-in or something next year, I don't expect them to be contenders next year, but I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Obviously, depending on how everything else goes in the NBA. But right now, I'm thinking 26, 27 could be the year that the Pelicans are actually contenders. But it just depends. Obviously, it just depends what happens, because by that point also, Zion will only have, I think, 1 or 2 years left on his deal at that point. So he may be off the team by then. I don't know. But I'm just going off of the information we have today and basically taking that in 2 years from now. So I just want to throw that out to you guys. I think the Pelicans are 2 years away from really being at the peak of whatever they're going to become. Anyways, just want to tell that to you guys. You guys let me know down in the comment section below your opinion about the Pelicans and whatnot. I just want to throw that out there to you guys because that's what I've been thinking about, and I'm just like, well, I just want to get this out. You know, I want to put this on people's minds if it's not. But yeah. Anyways, let's talk about some news. So, just announced today or like yesterday, the Phoenix Suns actually removed the name, so it's not going to be the Footprint Center anymore. It used to be U.S. Airways Arena, but it's not going to be the Footprint Center anymore. They're actually just going to call it the PHX Arena for now until they figure out marketing-wise who's going to take over for that. Not to mention, just so if you guys forgot, Arizona Phoenix is actually going to be hosting the 2027 All-Star game. I plan to be in attendance for that. Arizona is like a second home to me, so I plan on being there for that. Anyways, something else I kind of wanted to throw out to you guys a little bit, not even ranting, but just something that I think I want to throw out to you guys is next season, I think the Toronto Raptors next year is going to be a league pass team we got to watch. Really, if they stay healthy. It just made me think about it. Again, this was just thoughts I've been having over the last week. Think about who's going to be on that team next year. They'll have Emmanuel Quickly, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett. They'll have Jacoby Walter. They'll have Grady Dick, and then whoever their top, let's say get a top 5 pick in this draft as well. I think that's going to be a very, very fun team to watch for sure. In my opinion, a top 3 team, top 5 team. That's going to be must watch next year. I just think it's going to be a very fun team to watch. So I just want to throw that out there to you guys. And then also, I kind of wanted to talk about Trae Young very, very briefly. Obviously, Trae Young for, I would say, a little bit about half a year to a year now has been kind of like a player that we've also been seeing thrown against like the Spurs on the Spurs radar or has been interested in San Antonio or whatever. Obviously, they decided to go with De'Aaron Fox, which I think in the long run will be a better alternative because he's a bigger guard. So then that makes me wonder, and it made me think about, and this was just literally like 2 days ago, I started thinking about this. I'm like, okay, what other team could I see Trae Young going to? Because Trae Young's time in Atlanta, I think it's obviously ticking. I think we all know that. But that's when that thinking cap comes on. It's like, okay, where do we think he's going to go? And then we look at the landscape of the NBA, and the team that really stood out to me, and you guys may or may not agree with me. Let me know down in the comment section below. Who do you guys think the team he should go to or be considering to go to? But the team that really like struck me, I've been linking another player to this team for months and even during the offseason. But the team I'm thinking for Trae Young is the Orlando Magic. I think Orlando will be a good match for him. Defensively, they got the guys that can, kind of look out for him. Obviously, he can provide them with the things they need. Offensively, they do need a floor general, a point guard. Him being a number 2 to Paolo, or even a number 3, I guess, to him and Franz, depending on how you view Franz. I think Trae Young in Orlando makes sense to me. And Orlando has the assets to go get him as well. So that's something I want to throw out to you guys. And that's something I think we should... That's something I just want to put out there to you guys is I think Orlando could be a team that we can see going out and try to grab a Trae Young because they need a Trae Young. So the player obviously I've been talking about, if you've been following me, it's been Anthony Simons being linked to Orlando. But Portland, obviously, I think they're just scared to pull the plug. I think Joe Cronin is just scared, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think Trae Young to the Magic makes the most sense to me around the NBA. That team needs him. And I think him being on that team could take that team to the next level. And he still stays competitive. He's in my opinion, I think Paolo Banchero, for me, is going to be a superstar. That's just my opinion. And so, yeah, Orlando was the team I wanted to throw out there to you guys when it came to him. Now, we'll talk about a little bit of NBA news. So, Carmelo Anthony was just recently hired by NBC to be an analyst beginning for the NBA games next year. So, shout out to Carmelo. Very interested to see how he views the game. Another thing that I thought was really interesting and I think pretty cool is Jaylen Brown has been working with Bill Nye to kind of make a spinoff episode. If you know who Bill Nye the science guy is, or ever have to watch any of his videos in school, I used to have to watch his videos in school, so that's where I know him from. But yeah, Jaylen Brown was talking on the Jimmy Fallon show about potentially making a spinoff episode. So I thought that was something I want to throw out to you guys because if you guys don't know, Jaylen Brown, that's a smart mofo, man. That's one smart man right there. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys this week so far for what's new. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what's new for you guys over this last week. Obviously, we just had the NBA All-Star game. Full disclosure, to be honest with you guys, I really didn't watch much of it at all. I more so had my friends just telling me what was going on, and I seen maybe like 2 dunks from Matt McClung, but that was about it. I didn't watch it truly, mainly because I was working, but also like I just wasn't it wasn't worth, in my opinion, like, unfortunately, it just wasn't worth sacrificing work to watch that, in my opinion. So hopefully next year, and I think next year they'll put out a better product. So yeah, I don't got much to say about the All-Star game with you guys. But again, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what is new in you guys' eyes. So my next segment on the chopping block is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'll be giving you guys games I'm looking forward to, games of some type of significance, or games that I just really enjoyed watching. To be real, like I told you guys earlier in the episode, there was a lot of games this last week that I did like watching. But at the same time, there were so many games where I was just kind of dissatisfied just because of the effort level. But it's because All-Star Weekend was coming up, and I understood that. So I didn't want to come on here and cheat you guys at all. I didn't want to come over here and cheat you guys at all. My favorite game over this last week, I'm not really going to talk too much about it, was the Timberwolves versus OKC. They do play, I told you guys this actually like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they played 3 times in the month of February. We get them 2 more times coming up. But, so, with that being said, I also just want to give a shout out to Jalen Clark. He played really well. He played really good defense on Shea throughout the night. Also, Naz Reid has been on a little burner. Shout out to Naz Reid. I think, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Julius Randle. And I told you guys that, I think it was last week I talked about that, or the week before. But anyways, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because Naz Reid in the starting lineup with Gobert looks similar to pretty much what Cat did. So it's interesting to see what they do with Julius Randle. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do with him. If I were them, I would try and work out a sign and trade with Julius Randle and send him somewhere else and try to get some assets or something back for him. But we'll see what they do. Anyways, so this week for Games of the Week, I really, really just wanted to focus on giving you guys games that I'm going to be looking forward to this week. And then next week, I'll give you guys games that I enjoyed over the last week, okay? I just want to get us ready for coming out of the All-Star break, really is what I really want to do. So the games that I'm going to be looking forward to the most this week, there's quite a bit, so just bear with me. We'll start it off. On Thursday, there's 4 games going on Thursday that I'm really looking forward to. One is the Grizzlies versus the Pacers. Another is the Clippers versus Bucks. Another one is the Spurs versus Phoenix. Specifically, Spurs versus Phoenix, I'm looking forward to because it's going to be the first time an NBA game's played at a college campus. They're going to be playing at University of Texas. Kevin Durant went to UT, so that's going to be a really good game and fun game to watch. Another game I'll be looking forward to on Thursday is the Lakers versus the Blazers. Yes, and you're probably wondering why I'm saying that game, and it's literally because I personally enjoy watching the matchup of Luka versus Tamani Kamara. There's beef there, so I'm really looking forward to watching that game, and I'm going to try to be in the building. I'm going to try to go to the game and watch that game live, so we'll see what happens. Games on Friday that I'm really looking forward to is the Knicks versus Cavs, Grizzlies versus the Magic, Wolves versus the Rockets. And then on Saturday, games I'm looking forward to, there's only one. It's the Lakers versus the Nuggets, Luka versus Joker. And then on Sunday, there's 4 games that I'm really looking forward to. One is the Knicks versus the Celtics. The Knicks really need to beat Boston because the times that they played, it has looked really bad for New York. So New York needs this win or to look extremely competitive, and it's in Boston. Sunday also, the Clippers play the Pacers, Grizzlies play the Cavs, and then the Thunder play the Timberwolves on Sunday and Monday. I'm very much looking forward to those 2 matchups because obviously the Timberwolves just beat them. And so I'm interested to really see how these next 2 matchups go. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Well, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. What games are you guys looking forward to this week? Or even what games did you guys really like this last week? So my next segment on the chopping block is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, international, high school, or college. Today, we're predominantly going to be talking a lot about international basketball and a little bit of high school. We're going to talk about the high school's All-American rosters as well, okay? So we're going to start off with some international basketball. So Eason Almanza and Kareem Lopez will be representing their national teams in the upcoming FIBA window from February 19th to February 25th. So I'll be watching that. I've actually talked about both of these players last summer, but if you guys don't know anything about either one of these players, they're both 2026's prospects. Kareem Lopez is from Mexico, so he'll be playing for the Mexican national team. And then Eason Easton will be playing for, I think, Spain. I think he's Spaniard. But yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know that's coming up. Also, shout out to Tom Izzo. He became the all-time Big Ten wins leader at 354 wins. Shout out to Coach Izzo. Also, I want to give a shout out. Also, during All-Star Weekend, there was also another All-Star kind of game. It was the 2025 Basketball Without Borders game, and I want to give a shout out to the MVP, Akinza Alozie. I talked about him last summer. He was at a couple camps last summer. I think he's the number 10 rated player in class of 2026. Don't quote me on that. But he's from Nigeria. He won the MVP at this event. Then also want to give a shout out to the defensive MVP at this event. It was Dash Daniels, which is Dyson Daniels' little brother. He's a really great defender as well, from Australia. But yeah, he won the defensive MVP. So I wanted to give a shout out to both of those players. Also, something I thought was really interesting is that Auburn got a commit from a 6'7" sophomore, one of the top JUCO players. His name is Abdul Bashir. Sorry if I botched your name. But he averages down in JUCO. He averages 28 points per game. I didn't know anything about the dude, but I ended up watching videos. I watched a couple kind of just scouting videos on him. He looks legit, so he'll be somebody I'll be paying attention to next year at Auburn. Something else that happened, Louisville as well landed a talented commit from a talented German big man. His name, again, I'm sorry if I botch his name, is Sanada Fru. He's a 6'11", basically center from Germany. He's 21 already, but he'll be somebody I'll be paying attention to at Louisville next year. Louisville also, I think, got a commit. I think also Louisville got a commit from, is it Mikael Brown? I think Mikael Brown is going to Louisville, if I remember correctly. Louisville got somebody else that's going. I think it's Mikael Brown, though. I think Mikael Brown is going. I think he ended up committing to Louisville. But I think he's the number either 1 or 2 rated point guard in class of 26. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, Louisville is going to be a fun watch next year. Something else I also wanted to point out to you guys is that the Serbian Federation has announced a multi-year contract deal with Nike. So shout out to Serbia getting that locked in. Get ready for the Olympics in 2028. Something else also is Kyrie is really, really trying to be... He's trying to play for the Australian national team in 2028. I think that could be pretty cool to watch him play for Australia. Now, I want to talk about some international basketball with you guys, like a little bit deeper. So Adidas just had like one of their big international tournaments. It's called the Adidas Next Gen EuroLeague tournament. Now, I actually talked about this tournament pretty heavy. And I think it might be my most watched episode. I think it's episode 5 is where I talked about it. But that tournament honestly really opened my eyes to a lot of prospects and players like Kasparas Yakachonis played in that. Nolan Trayari did. I think Ben Sarv played in that tournament as well. Mario Saint-Supri did. So did Hugo Gonzalez. That tournament really just exposed me. I ain't gonna lie. Like, it really exposed me last summer, and it put me onto a lot of those guys. Well, the tournament happened again, and there's 2 guys during this tournament that I want to talk about. One I've been talking about, and that's Mohamed Dabone. Mohamed Dabone is only 13 years old. Yes, he's 13, and you guys are probably wondering, why am I talking about a 13-year-old? Well, it's because I learned about Victor when Victor was 15, and I do have proof of it. I use my phone for my camera, so it's kind of hard to show you guys like on Instagram. But one of these days, I'm gonna figure it out. Maybe I'll use my laptop or my iPad, and I want to show you guys. Like, I've been on Victor since he was 15, and I have the proof to back it up on my Instagram. But that's besides the point. I want to talk about Mohamed Dabone. I talked about him. I've been talking about him actually for a while now. I learned about Mohamed Dabone back in was that August? Is when I came across Mohamed Dabone. I think it might have been August. I think like August he had like a 40-point game. He had like a crazy game or something. But anyways, he's a 13-year-old. He's 6'11" at 13, yes. And I think he could be up next. He could be that next international player where we're like, whoa. For me, at least based on the tape I've watched on him and the games I've watched on him, for me, his player comps is like a Victor / Giannis. He has that in him. We'll see if it fully develops, because obviously, yes, he's 13. But I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I don't come on here and talk about him to you guys, you know? So we're going to talk about him a little bit. So he played in 2 games over at the Adidas tournament. He only got to play 2 games because he was hurt at the beginning of the tournament. So in those 2 games, take it with a grain of salt. But in those 2 games, he only played 14 minutes. He averaged 8.5 points, 7.5 rebounds. He averaged 2.5 fouls, 0.5 blocks, 0.5 steals. He shot 50% from 2, 33% from 3, 100% from the free throw line at 2 attempts. Again, I would highly recommend, if you guys have never heard of Mohamed Debone, I would highly recommend going to watch some footage on him. I think, like I said, I think he could be next up, but we'll see. We'll see. Another guy I want to talk about, this is somebody, because I'm very open, honest, and transparent about basketball and just about myself and about life. I did not know about this dude at all, but he screamed at me when I realized what he was doing at this tournament. I was like, whoa, okay, this is somebody I got to pay attention to. I watched some film on him, and I'm going to just give you guys what I got from the film tape. So based on the film, I'm not going to give you his name yet. I'm going to give you guys what I noticed. He's super confident in his shot. He's super confident in just a pure bucket. He has a tight handle. He actually crossed a bunch of people during the tournament. He had about 2 or 3 plays where he made people fall and touch the ground. He has really good size. He's 6'5", about 6'5". He's also really solid defensively as well. Now, this kid's name is Adam Adamanya. I hope I didn't botch his name, but he's a 6'5" kid. I think he's out of France, if I remember correctly. I don't have it in front of me, but I think he's out of France. But at this tournament, he did not have a single game where he scored under 29 points, okay? Now, I'm going to give you guys his overall numbers for the tournament. So, at the tournament, through 4 games, he played 37 minutes. He averaged 33 points on 63% shooting from 2, and that he shot 32 of 51. He shot 49% from 3 at 18 of 37. He shot 93% from the free throw line, 14 of 15. He averaged 7 rebounds and 3 assists. He averaged 3 steals and 3 turnovers. And just so you guys know, he also plays over in France in the 3rd hardest league right now in the NM1 league. But he only plays 17 minutes over there, and his numbers are still solid. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I think he averages like 9 or 10 points in that league. I think he's draft eligible in 2026, but this is somebody you guys should go back. You guys should watch some tape on him. I really like what I've seen from him in this tournament, and now he's on my radar. So if he's on my radar, he's going to be on y'all radar. We're going to be talking about him moving forward. But yeah, I wanted to give a big shout out to him because he had a huge tournament, man. He had a huge tournament. Like I told you guys, this tournament put me on the international players last year, and so he really jumped out to me. Debone, like I said, I've been talking about Debone. But yeah, also, I now want to talk to you guys a little bit about high school. We're going to talk about some high school basketball. First and foremost, I want to talk about the All-American West roster. This roster is loaded. I expect them to beat the East. No doubt. So on this team, you got Elijah Arenas, you got Mikael Brown Jr., you got Braden Burries. I'm sorry if I botched your name. You got Chris Senick, you got AJ DeBonsis, you got Coy Pete, you got Darren Peterson. You got Malik Thomas. You got Caleb Wills. This team is loaded. The West is loaded. Like I said, I'll leave up in the corner. I'll leave a visual for you guys to also look at the roster for just in case, like I said, if I botched any of the names. But then the East roster, I ain't going to say the East roster is like bad or anything. But the West for me is just like, it's nuclear. Okay. Now on the Eastern roster, I'm going to tell you some of the players that are on that team. They got Nate Ament. They got the Boozer twins. They got Darius Agoff. They got Shauna Bevy. I really like Shauna Bevy a lot. They got Isaiah Harwell as well. And they got a bunch, like I said, they got a couple other players. Like I said, I'll leave up in the corner. I'll leave this roster up in the corner. I'm really looking forward to watching the game. Obviously, it's more like an all-star setting. But these kids are obviously going to play it a little bit harder than our NBA, NBA people that we watch because these kids are still trying to make a name for themselves, and you got to think about it. Kids at this age, they all think they're the number 1 rated player. They got that confidence so young. So I just wanted to put that out there to you guys who was on those rosters. I'll be watching that game. I plan on going to the Nike Hoop Summit this year as well, the USA versus the World game. It'll be here in Portland, so I plan on trying to get to that game. But yeah, you guys let me know down in the comment section below, internationally or high school or college or NBA rookies, what did you guys, really like, or what would you guys notice? Next week, we'll get back into checking in on some of our top 30 preseason players that we're going to be keeping our eyes out on. The 5 players next week that we'll be watching is Christian Anderson, Elliot Cadeau, Mackenzie Mabako, Xavier Booker, and then Jaden Q. I can't pronounce Jaden's last name. I just can't pronounce it. But Jaden's the person that I'm most excited to talk to you guys about because he's only 17 and he doesn't turn 18 until July. So he has to play another year of college basketball. He goes to Arizona State. So next week, like I said, we'll spend some time talking about those players. And then we'll probably maybe also check in on some of our NBA rookies. Now, I want to thank you guys for the engagement that I've been receiving on my podcast. It's been really fun talking in the comment section, but in the comment sections with you guys. I'm going to keep this content rolling, and I just ask you guys just to share it for me and help me get out there. I really do believe that I talk about things that most people don't talk about, and I think I'm giving really good information, and I'm putting you guys also on players or teams or things that you may have not been paying attention to yourselves. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to check out my podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and PJ is out.